Hey, I'm Jake, and today I'm talking about my career timeline. Okay, 3 things before we get started. Number 1, order a copy of Drawings 3. I'm super proud of this book. It's 144 pages of all of my drawings from the last year and some other drawings from previous years. The feedback I've been getting on this book is that people love it. They really, they actually get inspired looking through it. I'm honored by that, and I'm proud of that. So if you want a copy of it, order it. I ship them out once a week, so you'll get it pretty quick. Number 2, Snapchat. I've been posting all kinds of content on Snapchat almost daily. I posted me drawing this picture, I posted drawing this picture, I posted drawing this picture, and I also talk about stuff that I kind of talk about on here as it comes to me and as I'm thinking about it. So if you want to follow me on Snapchat, here's the Snap code right there. Click that and add me to Snapchat. And if you are an artist, get on Snapchat and share your own work. I think more artists need to be on Snapchat. It's a really good tool for engaging and connecting with your audience. Okay, lastly, number 3, svslearn.com. This is an online art school that I co-founded with Will Terry a couple years ago, and it started with just one class. It was a how to do children's books class, and this was a course that we did not see being offered at the schools that we had taught at, and we just couldn't find it online, so we thought, well, let's just do it ourselves. It had such a warm response and an overwhelming response from the students that we taught. We filled the class with 30 students, and then we sold the recorded version to hundreds of students. And we realized, number 1, that we liked teaching together, and number 2, that there was a need for this approach to the way that we teach on how to visually tell stories. And so that one class blossomed into over 30 courses that we have now, over 100 hours of online, I think, solid art education. So go check it out. You can buy the classes individually a la carte, but I recommend subscribing to svslearn.com, and for I think $13 a month, and you can cancel it anytime. $13 a month, you get access to everything. It's like Netflix, okay? You subscribe, you get to watch whatever you want. You can watch just 10 minutes of one particular class and move on to another class if you want. And we have classes, everything from how to draw comics. I've got a class that I've taught on how to draw comics. We have a 20-hour class on how to do children's books, how to illustrate children's books, where we interviewed an art director, an agent, a literary agent, and then we also had an editor too, and we had 2-hour interviews with each of these prominent people in the children's book industry. So I think it's worth it just for the interviews. What else? We have courses on how to do compositions, how to do perspective. I have a course called How to Draw Everything. We have demos. Tyler Carter, an amazing artist, just posted a course on how to do hair, like how to do realistic looking hair, which I think is super impressive. So go to svslearn.com, check it out. I think you really like it. And now let's talk about my career timeline. And the reason I want to talk about my career timeline is, number 1, I like seeing other people's careers and how they evolved and grew, and where they came from, and how they got where they're at. And I just want to share that with you and show you how I did it, and maybe there's some things you can learn and apply to the way that you are building your career. So let's go do that now. This is my timeline, which starts in 1998 and goes to 2016. And again, I share this because I think there's a lot to learn from timelines, from looking at not only your own personal timeline, but looking at the timelines of other creatives who you may be patterning your career after. It's a good way to visualize abstract data, and it's one thing for a person to say to me that they worked at a place for a certain amount of years and then followed that up with working another place for a certain amount of years, and this project came out here and this project came out there, and for me, I'm a very visual person, so I need to see things, and seeing it on a timeline helps me to, number 1, spot patterns, and number 2, chart courses a little bit better. I could see just visualize it a lot better. So that's why I share it. Now, because my career is multifaceted, I've done a lot of different things at a lot of different places and on different levels. I'm breaking this timeline into different overlays. And the first overlay I want to share is my day job overlay. My first job was at Fox Animation Studios. I left school, dropped out of school during my second semester to take this job at Fox Animation, and I got hired on as an in-betweener, basically an assistant to animators, where I would do all the drawings that they wanted to do. And the reason I took this job, and I've had so many day jobs over the years during the majority of my career, is number one, for stability. I got married young, we started having kids young, and we just needed the stability of having a steady paycheck coming in, having insurance, the health benefits that come with working for a day job. And so really the stability was important for me to do the next thing, which was continue to learn my craft. And because I dropped out of school, I don't know if that affected me in a way, thinking that I never finished learning. I never felt like I got what I needed out of school, and so going into the professional sphere, I still felt like I needed to learn and grow. And so I looked at each of my day jobs as a way to master my craft, or to get to that level where I could master my craft. So stability, mastering my craft. And the third reason for the day job was to have to build relationships and to also network with other artists. Many friends, I have many good friends and best friends that I've gained over the years from working at different studios, and also a network of artists that I know and have worked with in other projects, or I can have often connected with later for just any sort of different things. So those are the reasons for having the day job, and that sort of being the backbone of my career up until the last few years. So this first job was Fox Animation. I worked there, and then the studio closed, got laid off. Everybody had to go find other work. Okay, the second job I had was the Arizona Museum of Natural History, and I got a job working there during the summer as just an art assistant. They were building a new dinosaur wing to the museum. It was like a prehistoric wing that charted the course of life through time, and I went down there, showing them my portfolio and asking them, if they needed an artist for anything. And the guy in charge was like, yeah, we do need an artist. I've got a couple already working, but we need someone to kind of fill in all the gaps and do the stuff that they can't do. And so that was my job, and it was everything from just really lame stuff like adding floorboards around the edges of like the Triceratop exhibit, to actually kind of cool stuff where one day they just showed up with these giant blocks of styrofoam, and my task was to sculpt a rock formation that was going to go on the top of the very top of the of one of the exhibits. And so I did this like 7 or 8 foot rock formation that I was sculpting, and I had to paint it to look like actual rocks and match the rest of the exhibit. I remember I painted a prehistoric alligator skeleton on the side of the wall that was like 20 feet wide. And so it was a really eye-opening job for me to realize how much work there actually was for an artist out there who just was willing to do it and to look for it. Okay, so that was the Natural History Museum. It lasted for only a summer, and then I got a job at Fanagram Studios. When I worked at Fox Animation, my plan was to become an animator. I'd always loved animated films. I thought it'd be cool to be an animator. And when I started actually working with animation and doing the in-between drawings, helping out with the animators, I realized I did not like animating as much as I thought I did. And so I kind of shift gears and shift focus, and realized I wanted to be a concept artist and to work on visual development. And I spent a lot of time in that department talking to those guys and showing them my work and getting pointers on them. And so from then on, I started building a portfolio that would get me a job as a concept artist. And I was able to get that job at Fanagram Studios, which was a Korean-based video game company that had an office in Phoenix. Shortly after I got the job there, they moved the office to LA, and I moved out to LA with them and worked out there. And I was there for a little over 2 years when I was approached by Real Effects. Brandon Oldenburg was the creative director at Real Effects, and he asked if I was interested in joining them out in Dallas. And I was like, why would I move to Dallas? And he showed me everything that they were working on. They did commercial work, but they were trying to develop their own feature animated films. They wanted to be like Pixar. And he showed me these projects that they were working on with an artist named William Joyce. And I just recently discovered William Joyce's books, and I was infatuated with them. And I was like, you guys are working with him? Like, yeah, we're developing some projects with them. And one of the projects he showed me was the Guardians of Childhood, which eventually became Rise of the Guardians, that DreamWorks film that came out a few years ago. And he showed me this pre-production work they were doing. He's like, this is the kind of stuff we're doing. And I said, sign me up, I'm coming, I'll move out there. So I took my wife and a couple of kids, and we moved out to Dallas. And there I worked at Dallas with Real Effects, with this amazing art department that they had there, and with Brandon and Limbert and all these guys that were just super talented. And I was learning as much as I could from them and trying to perfect my craft and just get better and better. Working with William Joyce was amazing for me. It was super inspirational to see this guy who was so creative, who was just bleeding creativity and always thinking of stories and always filling his mind with films and books, and I learned something right then that I wanted to be a storyteller. And so I evolved from just wanting to make art for a living to being a concept artist to being an actual storyteller and writing and drawing my own stories. And that was my big takeaway from Real Effects. And I knew I needed to get better as an artist, and I had this goal that not only was it just to do concept art, but I wanted to do concept art for feature films. And I realized Real Effects' timeline was going a lot slower than my personal timeline. I wanted to get some animated films under my belt before I reached a certain age. I wanted, at least by 30, to have one film under my belt. And so I applied and took a job at Blue Sky Studios and started working on Horton Hears a Who. And I was able to accomplish that goal of getting that, that credit on a feature film. I think my goal was 30 or 31 to get that job, to have that done. And at Blue Sky Studios, I was surrounded by the best artists in the industry. Honestly, these guys, and there's still so many of them there, and the art department just really is so killer. If you look at the Peanuts movie, the work that they did on that, and all the work they did on Horton Hears a Who and Epic and Rio and all these films, which I was able to work on, I learned so much from these guys, and I got so much better at just being an artist and honing my skills. Because I set this goal to write and draw my own stories, I knew that I wasn't going to be at Blue Sky forever, and I really wanted to shift my career into becoming more of an independent artist. And what happened was I got an offer from BYU saying, we'd like you to come out to Utah and teach for us for a year. We have a department, an illustration department, we have an animation department, and we have students that are kind of bridging the gap between those. And we need an instructor that has both worked in illustration and worked in animation and kind of helped these students along the way. So I came out and I worked with BYU for a year, and it was really good because at this point we had 5 kids, and we were bursting at the seams in our little house in Connecticut, and we just wanted a little bit lower cost of living so we could afford a bigger house, and so moving to Utah seemed like it would be a good idea, and it would be a good I think BYU would be a good stopgap for me transitioning into this scary independent artist career. And that was the plan, is I would come out to Utah and start working towards that independent artist that I wanted to be. When the BYU job ended, a lot of these side projects and things, personal projects that I had tried to set up had fallen through, and I had no work to do, and I was running out of money. We'd eaten through some savings, And so I took this job at Imagine Learning, which had this little 4 or 5 person art department. And it was this cool little art department working on these educational software games that were teaching kids how to read and write. And so they took me on, and my goal at Imagine Learning was to work there for a year while I got my act together and figured out a way to become an independent artist. And at the end of 2012, I had worked there for a year, and I wasn't anywhere closer to becoming this independent artist that I wanted to be. And it was this big, like, it was really depressing. Because I was going for that and going for it, and it just wasn't happening. And I was stuck in this job that I did not like. And I was using the job to the best of my abilities to try and learn and get better. And I was, really making some good friends at Imagine Learning. But as far as my career, it wasn't building my career like I wanted it to. And so at the end of that year, I was like, I really got to buckle down and work harder. And so I pushed hard on my social media, trying to put artwork out there and calling up contacts and trying to work relationships. And by March of 2013, I was able to quit my job because I had lined up enough work to last me for the next 6 months, basically to pay for half a year and support me. And I was like, well, this is it. If it doesn't work in these next 6 months, I'll have to figure something else out. And I took the plunge, and I became that independent artist, JP Creative LLC, and just started working on personal projects and other freelance projects and things like that. So this is the day job timeline. There's another timeline that was going right along with this the whole time, and that was my my social media and online presence timeline. So back in 2000, I got my first website, and I'd been posting artwork online and getting feedback and critiques and kind of posting in forums, and I realized I needed to establish myself online with my own website. And so my first website was in 2000, and I started drawing people to the website, and I was curating my content on there and changing it out, and just had like a nice portfolio, nicest portfolio I could have on there. And then for the next 6 or 7 years, my online presence was either posting to my blog or posting to forums and commenting on other people's work in forums, and just building this like micro following on forums and on blogs, and trying to make a name for myself. And then Twitter happened. I got onto Twitter, and for 6 months I just did not understand it. And one night it clicked, and I realized how to use it, how to have conversations with people, how to use it to promote my work, how to really use social media to be an extension of what I'm doing as an artist, and to be an exposure tool. Twitter led me to Instagram, where I started posting pictures of my artwork on Instagram. At first I didn't quite know how to use Instagram, and I was just using it to share pictures of my kids and whatever I ate. And then I started posting artwork on it. I really started getting a lot of feedback and likes and followers from that. And I realized, okay, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, these things, I'm not going to use them for personal reasons. I'm going to use them for exposure reasons and to further my career, and they're going to be a part of my job. And so Instagram led to Tumblr, which led to Facebook, which led to YouTube, and now Snapchat. And these are all outlets for me to share my work and to share who I am and what I'm about, and to try to build a fan base and a following and engage people who are interested in my work. Instagram started out in that first few months, I remember trying hard to get like 100 followers and just pursuing it and pushing it. And over the next 5 or 6 years, that followership has grown to over 150,000 followers. And it all comes from just posting my work almost daily, almost every other day, but staying consistent and just trying to post quality, good content. Same with Tumblr. I remember Facebook. I was just did not like Facebook, and I realized I'm being an idiot because there's so many people on Facebook and they're not looking at my work on Instagram and Twitter because they're not on there. So I should put my work on Facebook. So I made a fan page, and my goal that first year was to try and beat Tyler Carter. He had started his Facebook fan page, and he had like 4,000 or 5,000 likers on there. And I saw that, and I was like, okay, by the end of the year, I gotta just have more than him. And so I just started using Facebook the same way I was using Twitter and Instagram, and that followership grew and grew and grew, and now I'm at 80,000 on Facebook. YouTube, I posted my first videos in 2014 and kind of getting the feel of it, and then in 2015 my goal was to do a video every week for the whole year. I didn't quite nail that. I got about 32 videos for 2015, so I was about 20 videos shy, but my followership on, or my subscribers on YouTube grew from a couple hundred to 25,000, I think, 25,000 subscribers in 2015. And 2016, I'm at it, still trying to do better than I did in 2015. And now Snapchat, I started using about summertime of 2015, and I really like Snapchat. As I said before, it's just a way to also engage with people. So this is my social media online presence timeline. This timeline is my side projects timeline. So these are all projects, whether they're comics or Kickstarters or just any sort of storytelling side projects that I've done over the years. The first one was Missile Mouse Ashcan, and this was a little comic that I did for San Diego Comic-Con in 2002, and I photocopied it at Kinko's, and I brought it to Comic-Con, and I shared it with people and my art heroes. I showed it to Jeff Smith, and he just flipped out about it and loved it so much, and it like really bolstered my my image of myself and what I could do and accomplish to just have Jeff Smith like give me a huge thumbs up for it. That led to me doing stories for the flight anthologies. I did a story called Hugo Earhart for the first flight. A year later, I did a story called Robot and the Sparrow for the second flight. I took a break on doing some side personal projects in 2006 and 2007 because I was working so hard at Blue Sky Studios, and the move from Texas to Connecticut was a big one, and there just was a lot of kind of stuff going on in my life. We were having kids and stuff, babies, all that stuff. So kind of a gap here, but I got back into the game when I did Flight Explorer. I did a Missile Mouse story for Flight Explorer. Then I did a story for Out of Picture, my Antler Boy story. Flight Explorer that Missile Mouse story led to me getting an agent. The agent actually contacted me while I was working on Robot and the Sparrow, and I told her I wasn't ready to work with her yet. And it wasn't until around here that I got contacted by graphics, David Saylor Graphics, and he said, we want to do a graphic novel. We want you to do a graphic novel. And I pitched him Missile Mouse, and I got a 2-book Missile Mouse deal from that, negotiated by this agent. I called her up and said, okay, I'm ready to work with you. And it was because of this decision at Real Effects to write and draw my own stories that this stuff started happening and really started to take off a little more. And you could see me trying harder as the years go on to do more of these stories and writing stories and telling my own stories. Okay, so Missile Mouse I worked on all through these years, and they came out in 2009 and then 2010 and then 2011. Flight was finishing up its run. They had done 8 volumes, and I contributed a story to the last volume because I was one of the members of the first volume. And then I collected all my short stories into a book called The Antler Boy, and I launched a Kickstarter. And that Kickstarter thing, I'd heard about Kickstarter, and I was wondering what this Kickstarter thing was. And I was following a couple other artists that had posted books, and I thought, you know what, I'm really going to try this. I'm going to do Kickstarter. And I ended up getting $85,000 with 2,000 backers for that Antler Boy Kickstarter, and it was all because of this online following that I was building up through Twitter and Instagram and driving them to this Kickstarter thing. And it made me realize, it was right around here that I realized the importance of social media and how it could really affect these personal projects that I wanted to do. So that Kickstarter, I followed it up with a second Kickstarter for drawings, which was my collection of art books, drawings. I did drawings, and I ended up shipping them out around 6 or 8 months later. And then I did Rocket Raccoon, and Rocket Raccoon was with Scotty Young, and it was for Marvel, and it really felt like a personal project because it was just me and Scotty sort of spitballing ideas, and he would come up with a story idea and I'd come up with what I want to draw, and he'd try to put that into the story. It was really a lot of fun, and I wouldn't have gotten the Rocket Raccoon job had I not done this comics work beforehand, specifically Missile Mouse. Drawings 2 came out the beginning of last year. In November, I did the Skyheart Kickstarter, which reached 100,000 and over 2,000 backers, and then the Drawings 3 book, continuing my drawings series. So this is this side project timeline. This is my children's book timeline, and it was around 2010 that my agent had a discussion with me. We had this sort of meeting, and it was her strategy, her plan for me for the next 5 years. And what she said, you know, I told her I really just love telling stories. I want to write and draw my own stories, specifically comics. And she's like, I'm going to give you some advice. I really think you're good for children's books. And she told me the reasons why. And I was like, children's books? I'm not really into it. She's like, I promise you, you'll do well there if you really try hard and we do this plan that I have. And her plan was to get me a children's book deal once a year, with the goal to get a 5 or 6 of them under my belt, and then start doing writing and drawing my own children's books. So it would be illustrating other stories and then doing my own. And what happened was we got the Awesome Man book deal, followed by Apple's A to Z, followed by The Girl Who Wouldn't Brush Her Hair, and then Tooth Fairy Wars, and then Little Snowplow. And it was right after Tooth Fairy Wars, in the middle of Little Snowplow, that I got a 2-book deal with Roaring Brook Press to do Little Bot and the Sparrow and another book. And so Little Bot and the Sparrow comes out this September, followed by Who's the Grossest One of All, which is in October. I illustrated Who's the Grossest. Little Bot is based on my Robot and the Sparrow story that I did 10 years ago for Flight 2. Little Snowplow actually reached the New York Times bestseller list for 4 weeks in a row, which was amazing and totally unexpected. But it was I think a team effort between me pushing it on my social media and the publisher pushing it with vendors and booksellers, and then it just being a really good book written by a very talented author, and just being a cool book, and also her sphere of influence in the school and library realm as well. So this is my storytelling children's book timeline. All right, the next timeline, the next 2 are going to be like projects and initiatives that I've started. So Inktober I started in 2009, and I just stuck with it over the years, and I kept doing it. It started out with just me doing it. The next year, a handful of people doing it. It wasn't until I started really pushing it on Instagram, Tumblr, Facebook, and Twitter with the hashtag. I think I created the hashtag in 2013 or 2012. I think it was 2012 I created the Inktober hashtag and said, everybody post your Inktober under this hashtag, when it really started to snowball and go viral. Last year, 2015, it reached 1.5 million Inktober posts on Instagram alone. It trended on Twitter. It was a big deal, and it's become this thing that a ton of people have done. And every year it brings me new followers and new people to like the Jake Parker fan base, I guess. So that's Inktober. I followed up Inktober the last few years with Art Drop Day. I started doing art drops this summer of 2014, and then established Art Drop Day the first Tuesday of September. And I've been doing it the last 2 years. I'm going to do it this year as well. And that's, if you go look on my videos about art drops, you'll know what that's all about. And if you haven't participated, you should try participating. And then lastly, SVS, which I started with Will in 2013, and we've been posting classes and working on things for the last few years, and it's really become an interesting part of my career, and it's this nice outlet for me to teach very specific things about the way I work and how I approach art, not just what I'm doing on YouTube, but a lot more specific, like tips and tricks and techniques. And it's been making some money. It pays for a lot of my monthly bills as well. So at least my mortgage payment. I know that. So there we go. this is my timeline, and as you could see with it laid out like this, you see patterns and you see trajectories. You see how little was going on in the early years, how it was just me like trying to figure stuff out and trying to do the best I can with what I had. And these later years, how it's become, this career has become, like I said earlier, super multifaceted, and so many things going on and so many projects. There's several pivotal moments in my career, and I just want to talk about each of these just really quick before I close out the video. The first pivotal moment was Fox Animation, getting this job and finding out that an art career was a valid option. That prior to that, I did not know of any artist making a living doing art. It was all the people I knew it were doing it on the side, and it was a hobby. And when I got a job at Fox Animation, it showed me that, okay, there's 300 creative people here who are all making a living doing art, and that just, yeah, was a paradigm shift for me, where I realized, okay, this is a thing, I can do this. The second pivotal moment was the Museum of Natural History and getting that job and realizing that there's always going to be work for an artist. Like, if you're just willing to find the jobs and do the job, even if it's not the exact job that you want, it's going to be a job that you can learn at and grow at and build something from. So that was the second pivotal moment. The third pivotal moment was at Real Effects, when I worked with William Joyce and realized I wanted to be a storyteller. It wasn't just enough to do concept art, and it wasn't just enough to help visualize other people's stories. I wanted to tell my own stories. The next pivotal moment was at Blue Sky Studios, when I realized, I looked around and I was asking myself, where are the 50-year-olds in this studio and in this industry? And I realized the 50-year-olds were either art directing, or they were in a cubicle right next to me. And I looked at what I wanted to do with telling my own stories, and I realized working at a studio wasn't going to be for me for very much longer, because at the age of 50, I wanted to have a certain body of work under my belt. And I did not want to be an art director. I did not want to be a director. And I didn't want to be sitting in the same cubicle I was sitting at the age of 30. And so I started to make preparations and really do these side projects and take on some things that would help me move towards that shift to being an independent artist. The next big pivotal moment in my life was at Blue Sky Studio, or I just said Blue Sky. Next pivotal moment was at BYU, where I realized how much I really liked teaching and sharing my knowledge with other people. It wasn't just a job to take on, but there was a love and a love for it. I love doing it. I love sharing what I know with other people. The next big pivotal moment after that was doing my Antler Boy Kickstarter, and it taught me the power of social media and how using social media and using these online tools and what you have at your, the resources you have available to really make something happen for you. And Antler Boy just made me realize, okay, I can use my fan base to help me basically help me live out my dreams, my creative dreams. Okay, the next, and this is my last, I guess, big pivotal moment, was quitting that job at Imagine Learning and taking the leap to becoming that independent artist, and realizing that if I work hard and if every day I make something, regardless of what it's for, whether it's for me or for someone else, if I just work every day and do all this other stuff that I'm trying to do, that there's going to be work for me, and this independent artist thing is going to continue to work and be a thing for me. All right, that's my career timeline. I know I talked a lot. I hope this wasn't too boring. I hope you got something out of this, and that's it. All right, that's it for today. I hope you got something out of this video. If you did, please let me know in the comments below. I really appreciate that. I love hearing what you guys think. I wish I could reply to all of them, but I'm just so busy I can't. But know that I do read them. I really appreciate it. Like I said earlier, check out svslearn.com. Check me out on Snapchat, Mr. Jake Parker. Go ahead and add me. And I think that's it. All right, I'll see you guys next week. Bye.